Hello everyone, and welcome to your NARSA weekly update for the week commencing Monday, the 4th of September 2023. It's Gary here again, and you remember last week when I was all excited and all full of the beans about the week ahead? Remember that? I actually said the same thing last week as I'm saying right now, because I remember, and then I now recall what a disaster of a week that we all endured. 2 defeats, 1 goal for, 6 goals against. It dropped down to the Europa League and resumed what you have to just believe or understand is our normal league position, numerous points behind the mob from the East End. It's just a ridiculous week for our club, and it's tough really to know where we go from here. The team are just kind of random, and the core of the team are, and I don't mean to sound insulting, but the core of the team are proven serial losers when it comes to big and important games. And I don't think that's so much of a skill situation, but rather it's a mentality issue for me. So here's a wee bit of social science geekiness for you just to start off this week. When you're conditioned to think or act or behave in a certain way, if you do it for long enough, and there are different schools of thought on how long it takes to form a habit, but immaterial to that, then it does become a conscious or subconscious habit. And as you well know, habits are very, very difficult things to break. That's where we're at right now. We're conditioned as a club to lose important games. It's ingrained in us from, it feels like, the very top of the club right down to what we see on the field, I'm afraid to say. And it's steeped in the current club's custodians' DNA, it feels like, and when you look at the way the 2 games went for us for this week, you can see that it peddles the same sort of narrative of what happened, what we need to do better, all that stuff that kind of we've come accustomed to listening to, like, it was a mistake, it was made, and we just need to do the basic things better, stuff like that. And quite frankly, I'm just getting absolutely fed up hearing the same stuff after every poor performance in a big game. Should we give the manager some more time? Of course, that's not really for me to say, but I just have that sinking feeling that Michael Beale has lost the support of the fan base when you consider the reaction to Roof's substitution yesterday, and then the boos ringing out at the end of the game. I mean, I just bolted into the media room and just put the TV off right away because I wasn't really overly interested in seeing any more of that. But you could hear the boos, of course, ringing out very, very vocally at the end, and it's something that we're starting to feel and hear and see a wee bit more and more as we go. And the big thing for me now, and I know it's not just me, is like we seem void of like an actual footballing structure or a footballing philosophy for Michael Beale. And is that to do with a lack of technical football expertise in the boardroom? I'd mentioned briefly last week that the last remaining position was what the club were planning to do with Ross Wilson's, I think he was technical director or director of football or whatever his title was, the Ross Wilson, Mark Allen type role. Is that supposed to help and give us a wee bit of a boost, or let Michael Beale do what he's supposedly good at, which is coaching football teams? I'm not sure, but I don't see or understand the philosophy which is it's supposed to, like, what is best 11. It's supposed to be just lots and lots of chopping and changing, even just players within positions, the same player. I'm thinking about Todd Cantwell right now as an example, and how it's all taken shape. So thus far this season we've played 9 competitive games and 3 competitions, and we've got a record of 4 wins, 2 draws and 3 defeats. 3 defeats in the first 9 games. A third of the games we've played in we've got beat. It's hardly inspiring, is it? And I don't know how often the club hierarchy, in terms of their admin structure, look at and evaluate on-field progress, but I have to think that winning less than 50% of our games at this stage of the season, at any stage of the season, but especially as we get going, is well below the standards and targets that you would imagine have been set at the beginning of the campaign. Again, what a difference a week makes, and unfortunately for us, not for the better on this particular week. So we head into the international break on a gigantic downer, and that's just the way things seem to go for us these days. I'll do a very, very quick game segment, as I don't really feel like rehashing all the garbage that we endured this past week, and then we'll get on with the convention stuff and then a wee bit of communication, and then we'll go from there. So 2 games, of course, this past week, one in the Champions League playoff qualification round and one in the league, with both of them serving up a stark reminder of our squad and tactical frailties. And starting with the Champions League playoff game against PSV Eindhoven, where it ended up in an absolute doing, going down 5-1 in a game that it honestly could have been even worse for us if it wasn't for Jack Butland there in almost double figures. We just got ripped apart. And to be honest, I had it in my head, from before. I'm always enthusiastic about the games. I think Rangers are going to win every single game that we play, but I had it in my head truly that we needed them to have a wee bit of an off night, just because they've got good players and maybe even arguably better players than us. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to click, they're going to gel, they're going to perform on the night. So I was hoping that they would have a little bit of an off night and we would have a great night, because we've done that before in the past, and then we might have done something special. But this Rangers team just isn't a Champions League level team, honestly. So we got what we got there, and we'll go and ply our trade in the Europa League. My main hope, honestly, was to qualify for the Champions League, do enough in the Champions League to get third spot, drop down to the Europa League, and then have a wee bit of a run in the Europa League in the knockout stages. Not to be, and we'll have to do what we do in the group stages. The positives from the game: the final whistle was quite a positive for me, I think, and Jack Butland, I thought, was tremendous, and Rabbi Matondo, I think, didn't do himself any harm, with his continued resurgence in the team, with his guile and his pace and his directness as well. The negatives, the whole game pretty much, certainly from about the 20-minute or so mark, was pretty negative for us. Our defending was just criminal, and it feels like we just capitulated. We got those kind of deer in the headlights looks and just froze. Then we bring it back to 2-1 on the night, and you've got an opportunity to just start to ask a question, which felt exciting for about a minute, and then it was all over again. 3-1 after some poor defending from a set piece, and then Connor Goldson's own goal at the end was just a disaster. That's just the icing on the stupid, disgusting cake for us. The stats said it was 43% possession for Rangers. We had 8 shots on goal with 3 on target, to their 17 shots on goal with 10 on target. So that gives you an idea of how good Butland was for us. So we gave up the possession and the chances, and that kind of just tells the story of the game, really, doesn't it? The referee watch, I can't even remember the guy, so he'll get a 7 out of 10, and we'll just move on. The second game was yesterday's 1-0 home defeat to the mob from the East End, and what was just a disjointed and ultimately pointless, literally and figuratively, performance. We started incredibly well, and I thought personally that we had the opener in the first minute. So here I am, like a clown, running up and down the pin bar at 5 a.m, having not warmed up. Of course, you'll know that I'm an athlete. And then I hurt my back, I hurt my hip, I hurt my hamstrings and everything, and I'm marching up and down there, and it was a great time and a great feeling, but it ended up all being for nothing. And in the first 10 minutes or so, I thought we were okay, and then we just settled into our habit, there's that word again, of sitting back and assuming and waiting for an onslaught from them, which never came. Yet we still stuck with standing off them and not taking the game by the scruff of the neck, which we were doing very effectively in the beginning. We then opened the scoring with a perfectly legitimate goal that was expertly dispatched by Roof after great work by Dessers, who also set up the Matondo goal as well for the what was ultimately the offside opener. No complaints about that one at all. So he's getting some, he got in the first PSV game as well. He got a good assist for Matondo as well. So a wee bit more to his game than just a goal scoring. But then this goal, as you know, was chalked off because their defender kicked Dessers and then fell. And Don Robertson, the referee, who I gave him, I think it was like a 1.5 or a 1 or a 2 maybe a wee while back. He then was told by the VAR to go and check it at the side of the pitch, and then inexplicably he comes out, does the VAR kind of fake screen thing, then looks like his body popping or whatever it is he's doing. He's pointing it all over the place. He's pointing at the centre circle, then he's pointing where the foul in inverted commas happens, and he gave the foul to them. Absolutely, utterly pathetic, disgusting, and downright cheating. There's no way from any angle you can look at that and say that the first on-field call that he made, that he was very close to, was not the correct call. Just a cheat. Thankfully, on this particular occasion, from my own personal self-preservation perspective, I didn't injure myself celebrating this one, because I just wanted to wait and see what happened, and then we got what we got, which was nothing, and just ridiculous. And then, as is the Rangers' way these days, Connor Goldson, on the same sort of form that we saw him, score that bizarre own goal as a fifth goal in Eindhoven, just that's a kind of lackadaisical, lazy, heads it out, nothing header, instead of just launching it, and launching it, because he can head it to the halfway line kind of thing, and he just kind of launches it and it goes to their player to play it through. I think it was John Suter that was holding their guy on side, but he's not expecting that sort of header, so that's nothing to be aligned to John Suter in terms of blame or anything like that. And he brought it in, and fair play, I said it at the time, it was an absolutely brilliant finish, and to get to be 1-0 right on half time, I think it was like the 47th minute or something like that, and I'd said to a bunch of pals, here's just a wee bit of reflection. On Saturday specifically, because we're all getting really excited about the game, if we do our jobs collectively and individually, if the whole entire squad does their jobs on Sunday, the result is ours. And I was absolutely convinced that was the case. Well, we didn't, and the goal was the epitome of that. The second half was a wee bit better in terms of pressing and chance creation, but it wasn't very structured, and quite frankly, it wasn't very exciting, and it was the same old garbage that we see served up when we're in positions like this against them, or teams like them that have managed to sneak a lead. We had a couple of chances, but we also gave up a bunch of chances as well, and on another day we could have walked away with having been beat by more. I don't think we would have deserved that at all. The very, very least we deserved was a draw. But some of the chances that were given up, of course, because we're pressing, I'm not complaining about that, but on another day, there was a lot of balls going across that box there that might have ended up getting tapped in. It could have been, different. Anyway, I thought we should have had a penalty when Maeda, this guy just basically runs around fouling people unpunished, and I don't know why the captain or the players go like that. That's number 3, ref, don't you? That's number 4. That's number 5. The referees don't like that. I know they don't like that, but then you're in their ear, and then they're going to be watching out for it, and they're going to do something that'll give you hopefully an opportunity for some sort of fairness to be added to the game. But no, it just seems to be able to run about and get completely unpunished. Anyway, he absolutely downs Cantwell with the arm flailing. I'm not, I understand the rules, and I understand a good old shoulder check, and I'm into that, but when you go in with your arm flailing like that, and then VAR didn't seem so keen to get involved in this one as they did with the disallowed goal, and the play just continued, and of course we were a wee bit worried, down to 10 men for a wee while actually, as Cantwell got himself a little bit of treatment, so hopefully he's okay as well. So just pathetic refereeing, a very, very poor, lacklustre show from us. They saw the game out, and it was basically just a carbon copy of everything we've seen against them for the past 4 or 5 seasons, 55 season aside, of course, which is becoming more and more like an absolute 38 game fluke that we all enjoyed a couple of years back there. Positives, again, the final whistle. I looked at the clock on about 58 minutes, and I was thinking, I know how this story ends. I could save myself half an hour of my time and go home and go to bed here, but was there in hope and anticipation, and I thought Butland was great. Again, Cantwell and Raskin really grew into the game, especially in the second half, and that's about it in terms of positives. The negatives, where do you even start? We were clueless, we were too passive, we were too respectful, too naive, too bereft of ideas that would have made any material difference to the game, and of course the result, which is the main thing. It was just the same dung that we've seen over and over and over again. Poor defending, a mistake that costs us, and then we don't have any ability to break down teams that defend fairly deep in their half or in their area. The same old story, folks. On the stats side, it said we had 50% possession, which I was actually quite surprised about, because the amount of times we just sat off them. and it says that we had 10 shots on target, 10 shots on goal, 3 on target, to their 7 shots on goal with 5 on target. So they did more on target than us, which is kind of the story. You know, we had all this huff and puff into the box, and then we never got a break, never really forced our way to getting a break, and certainly, of course, never got a chance to dispatch any balls into the back of the net. On the referee watch, Don Robertson's an idiot of a referee. 1 out of 10. Clown. That's it. I don't want to talk about this guy anymore. He's just pathetic. So we're now in the international break, as I said earlier, on a wee bit of a downer, and it's certainly not what we were hoping to be. And Michael Beale, when he was interviewed on RTV afterwards, had said it's 2 weeks to work with the players, or something to that effect. And I'm kind of not sure what he's been doing for the past 2 months then. That's going to be absolutely amazing, and the turnaround for the next 2 weeks is going to make, I don't think it's going to make any massive difference to the remainder of our season, the way that things are going right now. And I feel kind of gloomy. It's kind of, actually, the weather's quite gloomy here in Calgary today as well, so maybe that's kind of the way that it is. But we don't have that little bit of hope, when this player comes back or whatever, we make the stupid mistakes, we have the bulk of possession, we huff and puff up to the final third, we don't have a good final ball. Any chances that do come, we're not ruthless enough like their guy was, and it's the same old story under Michael Beale, under Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, for lots of time under Steven Gerrard as well. So kind of dire. For RTV, no major updates on the RTV front. Still having a wee bit of dialogue with a couple of clubs that have come back to us to just kind of get a wee bit more information, or a wee bit more dialogue as well. So we'll use this international break to get all those all kind of cleaned up and move on with the season. Just a reminder, I think I mentioned this a couple of pods ago, the emails have been sent out for memberships. This is specific for NARSA clubs, for your membership dues, to get those paid, and we want those paid by I think we said the middle of the month, maybe the end of the month, but I've got the middle of the month in my head right now, so forgive me if I've got that wrong. But the key part is, if your club has not paid their membership, by the deadline, let's just say it's the middle of the month, the 15th, and then we will be cutting off your RTV access. We have to do that just to get a wee bit more serious about making sure everyone is in good standing with NARSA. It sounds a wee bit ruthless. It's not in reflection or reaction to the game or the result yesterday. It's just, we said that before, but just a reminder, you've got a couple of weeks to get that organised, and hopefully everyone will, because we don't want the hassle and the drama of having to cut clubs off for that as well. On the shout-outs, we have a very new addition to the Rangers family, and that also coincides with us now having a great grandmother in our ranks at the Rangers Supporters Club of Calgary. Lorelei Liddell was proud as punch to welcome her great granddaughter Summer Elizabeth, who was born on Thursday the 31st of August, to proud parents Dana or Dana, I'm not 100% sure if it's Dana or Dana, and Mike Scholars as well. So something positive from the last week that we can look at and say, oh, that's really nice. It's certainly nothing to do with Rangers Football Club directly anyway, but congratulations to Dana and Mike, and of course to Lorelei and Alec Liddell on becoming great grandparents. That's very, very, very exciting. On the Leo front, 619 days, 88 weeks until he's 16, and then we can get him starting to properly earn some cash. On the convention update, I can officially confirm that it's 269 days and 38 weeks until what might be NARSA 2024 in New York City, assuming that we can confirm the dates of the 30th of May to the 1st of June, which, once again, I need to reiterate that that's just a target of those dates. We have no signed contract with the hotel, and I need to be very, very clear that I do not recommend that you book any travel until we get that organised. We're in a wee bit of a holding pattern, it feels like, with the hotel. We did have the meeting with the NARSA executive last week that I talked about on last week's pod, and then had a conversation with the sales executive fellow over at the hotel, and just gave him an idea where we're at, what we're looking for, come back with a little bit of a proposal, possibly a smaller room, smaller venue, smaller minimums on food and beverage and on the actual hotel rooms as well. So they took that away, and we had a wee bit of a text conversation a couple of times during the week for a wee bit more clarification. I was kind of expecting to get something by the end of last week, and it was a couple of times it was in my mind to to text them and say, hey, listen, I've got the pod on Monday, would really love to provide a bit of an update. But that's kind of what we're doing. We're looking at something just a little bit smaller, and because, as I mentioned last week, there is enough interest from the folks that responded to our survey that an event of some description is going to happen, and it's hopefully going to happen on that exact same weekend as well. So I'll repeat myself and say that I hope by this time next week we do have some concrete information to provide you. If we get an opportunity to actually sign a contract and then get going, we'll certainly let you know as well. Really appreciate the fact that flights will be open for booking right now, and people will be desperate to kind of get going on that. It's just a wee bit more difficult to do this stuff when the team isn't very, very inspiring either. So more to follow on that next week, and I'm actually literally going to finish recording here. I'm recording a wee bit earlier today. Right now it's just after 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I will message him. I'm sure they're celebrating Labour Day over in the United States as well, so I might not actually get a chance to get a hold of him, and that's basically it. On the communications front for this week, the Gers Guide this week is pretty empty, I don't mind telling you, so which is kind of good because there's not all these adverts flying all over the place. Not a whole hell of a lot going on in terms of Rangers land for this week, which is of course par for the course because it's International Week. There's on Friday there's what they're calling the big interview with Sir Alex Ferguson, and that's going to drop on Rangers TV on Friday. I'm not 100% sure what time, but I'm definitely going to tune into that. I'm a big Alex Ferguson fan, so I would love to hear what he's got to say about his time at Rangers and his managerial career and such. And then on Sunday we have Dundee United versus Rangers in the Scottish Power Women's League as well there. And I don't know the time, the kick-off time, that wasn't actually put on there as well. But if you follow the Rangers women's team, you'll know what the timing is for that as well. And their season is trucking along relatively nicely as we go. And the last thing on the communication front is I had mentioned NARSA's involvement with Experience Kissimmee when the announcement was made there back in early August. I think it was probably about a month ago or so. Well, what I can share with you now is that a few of us on the NARSA executive have been invited down to Kissimmee to look at to do some preparatory work and legwork for what might be our convention down there in 2025. That's one of the main highlights. That was one of the main reasons that we got involved from an NARSA perspective, was the opportunity to take our convention down to Kissimmee. So we're going to be going down and meeting with a couple of representatives from Rangers and also with representatives of Experience Kissimmee. We're going to see some properties when we're down there and just get a feel for what the area can provide us in terms of entertainment and amenities and facility and stuff like that to be able to do what we would like to do from a convention perspective. It's the first time we've ever had an opportunity to do this, and very, very grateful to Experience Kissimmee for supporting us on this journey as we go down. It's something. I'm a bit of a homebody. I like to just stick around at home and do my own thing, but it's going to be a whistle-stop tour. I'm leaving on the 14th and flying back on the 17th. The work itself is going to happen on the 15th and 16th, which is a Friday, Saturday. We're also going to get an opportunity to visit the Orlando Rangers Supporters Club for our first game after the international break, which is an earlier one against St Johnstone at McDermott Park as well there. So some exciting information. I'll share what I can, of course, when on the pod on the 18th, which will be 2 weeks from today, and we'll see where we go from there. But yeah, something a wee bit different and an opportunity to support the club in a slightly different way, and also get our exposure to NARSA increased a wee bit, or exposure for NARSA increased a wee bit as we go forward as well. So yeah, Gaz the Jet Setter over the next wee while. I'm going to be joined by our convention director Billy Ferguson and our communication director Lorraine Spence as well. Lorraine was instrumental, as you might remember from the information I shared on the pod about the announcement, and liaising with Rangers and getting things organised in her role at the time as the sponsorship and marketing director for NARSA. So it's going to be a good bit of continuity there from Lorraine as well. So really looking forward to seeing the folks in person and getting a chance to do a little bit of business on behalf of NARSA and Rangers as well. Okay, folks, that will do it for this week. As always, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you very, very, very much for taking the time to listen, and please do share it with whomever you think might enjoy it. Actually, do you know what? Before I go, I have 2 birthday wishes to put out there for today. The first one is to my lovely niece, Chloe Carey, who is the ripe old age of 22 today. Two little ducks for Chloe. We had a bit of a late night last night in Debbie and Andy's kitchen there with Chloe, and it was a lot of fun. It was the first time we've done that in quite some time, so that made for a little bit of a slower start this morning. Thanks, Chloe. And the second one is to our new sponsorship and marketing director, Nicola Fatkin, who it's also her birthday today, and I'm pretty sure she would kill me if I told you what her age was, so we'll just move on swiftly from there. But happy birthday, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, folks. Until next week, folks, I'm sorry this past week was just an absolute mess. It's just these trials and tribulations are going to make us stronger in the future, and I hope that we do see a dramatic turnaround as quickly as possible before this whole thing is just another runaway. We've been here, it's not even a year, is it? And we're kind of back in the same situation. I don't like that. I don't like waking up in the morning and kind of looking at the headlines, fearful that we might be having sacked a manager and looking for a new guy and things like that. That's not what we want. We want to be looking at how the players are doing, what the fixture list is coming up, things to get looking forward to, not that dread of looming potential admin change and a lot of structural upheaval on the footballing side. Just start winning games, Michael, and we'll get to start to love you properly again. Until next week, folks, take care and all the very best, okay? Cheerio.